Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have swatches for you from the Sensual Collection for Fall 2019 from Zoya. This collection was sent to me from HB Beauty Bar, so in the description box below I will link the HB Beauty Bar site and their Instagram page, I will link the Zoya site and their Instagram page, and then I will link my Instagram page where you can see more swatches of everything from this collection. So we do have 12 polishes to look at today, and let's go ahead and get started. So first we have Rashida, and this is a deeper kind of rich ruby red shimmery shade. So here is our first coat of Rashida. So this one goes on nice and smooth. It is a little bit sheer here on this first coat. It does appear a little bit more on the pink side. So I'm going to do a second coat that'll deepen the color and cover completely up the nail line. Formula is good. It's not too thick or too thin. I didn't have any kind of running or pulling or staining with this one. And I do prefer the Zoya thinner brushes to their wide brushes. I feel like it does give me a little bit more control. So here's our second coat, and that does cover completely in 2 coats for me. And 2, if I sound sick or bored or tired, it's because I am sick. I apologize. But this one is going to dry nice and glossy all on its own. You will want a top coat for longevity purposes, but nothing in this is going to dry textured. Nothing in this is going to be difficult to remove. So there is 2 coats. Up next we have Margaret, and this is a red pink cream. So here is Margaret. This one is completely opaque in 1 coat for me. I'm showing you what 1 coat looks like today. I did also do 1 coat in my swatch photos. If I was wearing this on any kind of given day, I would do 2 just for that full plump nail polish look. You will want a top coat for this to just make everything look nice and cohesive. And you will also want a base coat to avoid any kind of potential staining. I didn't have staining for my swatches, but I also didn't wear it for an extended period. So there is 1 coat. Up next we have Elliot, and this is a deeper kind of navy blue cream. Here is our first coat of Elliot. So this one is a little bit patchy here on this first coat, but overall coverage is pretty good. Formula is good. It's not too thick, not too thin. Again, no running or pulling or staining. You will see, I don't know if you can see it or if you're even paying attention for things like that, but I do have these like little bumps towards my cuticles on my nails. That is definitely not the polish. It is very creamy all on its own. It's because I have swatched about a ridiculous amount of polish in this one day. So I had some glitter stuck to my nails. I do buff it at some point during this video. So anyway, this is completely opaque here in 2 coats. I didn't have any staining, but I would just make sure to use base coat for this one because this is a color that tends to stain. So there is 2 coats. Up next we have Vesper, and this is a dusty, kind of purpley mauve cream. Here's our first coat of Vesper. So this one also covers pretty well here on this first coat, just a little bit patchy and obviously can get a little bit deeper. Formula is, again, smooth and easy to work with. No running or pulling or staining on this one either. All of these creams are pretty much the same in that they have the same formula. I don't think I've ever reviewed a Zoya collection on my channel. I don't think I've ever purchased a full collection either. So this one is completely opaque here in 2 coats. This one is also going to dry down nice and glossy, just like everything else in, or mostly everything else in this collection. But a top coat will help just to keep your manicure lasting a long time. So there is 2 coats. Up next we have Makayla, and this is another dusty purple, but this one is much more of a warm tone purple, as the previous polish was a cool tone purple. Here's our first coat of Makayla. So just like practically all the other creams, this one does cover really well here on this first coat, but it's not completely opaque, so I am going to go in for a second coat. Again, the formula is smooth, easy to work with, and not too thick, not too thin. I will say that they're creams, just for comparison purposes, are thicker than OPI or China Glaze to me. But they are very easy to work with where I didn't have any kind of running. I can go in a little bit thicker and not have any like pulling towards the sides of my nails if I wanted to. So this is opaque in 2 coats for me. This one is also going to dry nice and glossy all on its own. Again, that top coat will help with keeping your manicure lasting longer, and you will want base coat just to avoid any potential staining. So there's 2 coats. Up next we have Ripley, and this is another cool tone purple. This one does have more pinky hues to it as opposed to the blue. Here's our first coat of Ripley. So this one covers really well here on this first coat. Not quite a 1-coater. I could have probably pulled a 1-coater if I went a little bit thicker and took my time, but I did opt to go in for nice thin coats. And I did have some patchy spots, or some spots that were lighter than others. But again, a nice, smooth, easy to work with formula, no running or pulling or staining for me. So here's our second coat, and that does cover completely in 2 coats. Just like all the other creams, this one is going to dry nice and glossy all on its own. You will want base coat just to avoid any kind of potential staining. Nothing's going to dry textured or be difficult to remove. So there's 2 coats. Up next we have Etta, and this is a deeper reddy purple wine shimmery shade. Here's our first coat of Etta. So this one is pretty good here on this first coat, especially considering that it's like a high contrast shimmer. Formula is really good, smooth, easy to work with. I am going to go in for a second coat though. It does deepen that color quite a bit, and it does hide any unevenness that this polish has. This one is also, you don't have to worry about having like brush strokes through the shimmer, which I totally appreciate for a high shimmer polish. So this is completely opaque in 2 coats for me. This one is going to dry nice and glossy all on its own. Again, you will want a top coat just to finish everything off. And this one totally reminds me of fall and wine and all that good stuff built up. So there is 2 coats. Up next we have Joss, and this is a pinky nude cream. Here's our first coat of Joss. So considering what color this is, this covers really well here on this first coat. I do have a couple patchy spots, so I am going to go in for a second coat, but this one really impressed me with the coverage. Formula is smooth. It's a little bit thicker than the rest of the creams that we've looked at, so I don't think it'll self-level as well as the rest of them have, but it does still cover completely in 2 coats, and it's not so thick that it's difficult to work with. This one, I do think after a couple uses though, you will have to use some thinner in it for. This one will also dry nice and glossy on its own, and nothing's going to dry textured, stain, or be difficult to remove. So there is 2 coats. Up next we have Briar, and this is a dusty rosy cream. Here's our first coat of Briar. So this one covers really well here on this first coat also. Very smooth, easy to work with formula, not too thick or too thin, no running or pulling or staining. I can just barely make out my nail line, so I am going to go in for a second coat, but this is one where I feel like if you did a little bit thicker of a first coat and a little bit more careful of an application, you could easily wear this on just a 1 coat. I am working relatively thinly today though. So here's our second coat, and that does cover completely in 2 coats. This one, just like the rest of the creams, will dry nice and glossy all on its own. You'll want a top coat just to protect your manicure, and a base coat to avoid any kind of potential staining. Again, I didn't have staining with anything in this collection, but it is just precautionary. So there is 2 coats. Up next we have Kinsley, and this is a nutty kind of nude cream. Here's our first coat of Kinsley. So this one also covers really well here on this first coat. This is kind of my like first impression, I mean, I've used Zoyas in the past, don't get me wrong, but I've used like maybe 2 Zoyas in the past. I've never reviewed a whole collection, never purchased a whole collection, so I was thoroughly impressed with everything across the board in this collection, generally speaking. I've purchased a lot of Zoyas, I just haven't made it around to using any of them. So anyway, Kinsley is completely opaque here in 2 coats for me. Again, this will dry glossy on its own. A top coat's recommended just to keep the party going as long as possible. Nothing in this polish is going to dry textured. Nothing in this polish is going to be difficult to remove. And I am about to sneeze. So there's 2 coats. Up next we have Foster, and this is a lighter kind of milk chocolate cream. So here's our first coat of Foster. So this one is out of focus, but it is a little bit sheer and patchy here on this first coat. Formula is good. This one was actually a little bit thinner than the rest of the cream polishes. It wasn't difficult to work with by any means. I just feel like if you did too thick of a coat for this one, you could end up with some balding on the top with some running and pulling down the sides. So here's our second coat, and that does cover completely in 2 coats for me. This one will dry nice and glossy all on its own. If you want it to last, you will want a top coat, base coat, just to avoid any kind of potential staining. Not that I think this one would stain in any kind of way, shape, or form. So there is 2 coats. And then lastly for today we have Ashton, and this is a gunmetal gray shimmery shade. And here's our first coat of Ashton, which is the oddball of the family, and I think my camera was just at an odd angle because my pinky is totally out of focus for this one as well. But the formula on this is, again, smooth and easy to apply, a little bit sheer here on this first coat. This one also has a little bit of a thinner formula, but the shimmer that's in here, it does stand out really, really nicely against this black base color. So here's our second coat, and that does cover completely in 2 coats. This one is going to dry on the dull side. It's not going to dry like completely satin or matte, but you will want top coat just to bring everything together. And removal is not going to be difficult like a glitter, but it is definitely going to be messy where you're going to have to do some scrubbing your skin. So there is 2 coats. So I actually have 3 standouts today, and they are kind of in the same spectrum. The first one being Rashida. I think this is a perfect Christmas red. It's a beautiful 2-coat formula, very easy to work with. I really, really like that one. I love Joss. I think this is a gorgeous fall kind of pink, and that also goes hand in hand with Briar, just a little bit darker. These are kind of my like go-to shades if I don't know what else to wear. So I really like these ones, and then Rashida stands out for Christmas for me. And guys, that is it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this collection. Let me know if you plan on picking any of them up, if you already have picked them up. I know I am a wee bit late on this review. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and I will talk to you again next time.